In August 2005, a Category 5 tropical cyclone known as Hurricane Katrina battered the Gulf of Mexico. The hurricane caused over 1,800 deaths and inflicted $125 billion in damage, particularly in New Orleans, where around 80% of the city was inundated for weeks. The New Orleans Superdome was converted into a makeshift shelter until it too was damaged by storm-force winds. Tens of thousands of people were stranded without access to food or shelter. The scale of the disaster in New Orleans triggered massive national and international relief efforts and provoked public outcry over what many saw as the US government's tardy response to a major emergency. But it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. And in the midst of this massive and destructive natural disaster, a young woman was hatching plans. Although she didn't realise it at the time, the first page of the Demo Diva story had just been written. And now, on the 15th anniversary of the formation of Demo Diva, I caught up with that woman, the American Queen of Demolition, Simone Bruni. For those that are unaware of the Demo Diva story, take me back to the days just before Hurricane Katrina. What were you doing for a living back then?
So I was a corporate event planner here in New Orleans. Had been in the hospitality tourism industry for 10 years and single, living the nice life, single girl life. Had bought my first house. Actually just bought the second house, which was a rental. And life was marching on. It was everything was great. And in one, that hurricane switched path and no one was anticipating it coming for New Orleans. And in one moment, all of that career path was over. The hospitality industry was pretty much washed up for 2 years.
Now, I mean, you just mentioned the fact that it did switch direction, but I mean, I guess New Orleans must have got some warning, but I don't think anybody foresaw just the sheer level of devastation. I live in a country where one inch of snow can bring the entire country to a standstill. What was it like to live through something like that?
Yeah. So we are coming up on 16 years while, so it was 16 years ago that this all happened. And I can tell you, even with the hurricanes that we have had over the last 16 years, nothing will ever compare to that. That was surreal. I don't think America will ever see that level of reaction again. It brought us to our knees. It was sheer devastation for years. It wasn't just a cleanup in a few months. This was really brought us to our knees. So, flooded for miles and miles, cities inundated, parishes inundated, and from here to Mississippi. So utilities down, no water, no, food distribution. So it was quite devastating. And everyone was scrambling to get out of their housing situation or to find housing in Texas or Florida or somewhere else. So it was a real reorganization of life.
So you find yourself unemployed, your hometown is in ruins. What was the light bulb moment that made you think, I know, I'll start a demolition company?
Yeah, from selling parties to selling demolition. Mark, that's the beauty of that story, is that I didn't really jump into demolition immediately. I was really trying to go back into the hospitality, waiting it out, and that didn't happen. So in the process of gutting my house, let me really go back to the Katrina story. Katrina was not a natural disaster. Katrina was not a windstorm, I shouldn't say, Katrina wasn't a wind event or a rain event. Katrina was a government event. This was clearly government whether we call it corruption, whether we want to call it the Army Corps of Engineer did not drive the sheet pilings into the clay bed, and the walls fell down. The walls that were holding back our canals laid down and flooded the city. So this was completely a government event. And with that said, for 1 year after the storm, the people here did not know what to do. We had no direction or safety to say it's safe to come back. And so within that environment, I did not know what to do. I didn't know how to build a career. We all didn't. I mean, I was just a peon in the masses. So with that, there just had to say, okay, I'm going for it. Whatever will be, will be. Well, I had, maybe youth on my side or risk on my side. But with that, I said, I'm gutting my house. Being that I speak Portuguese, I had access to labor. That was a commodity. I speak Spanish and Portuguese. And so I was able to find some Brazilian workers that were able to help me gut my house. That gave me the leg up. With that said, I started to see my neighbors were frozen. Other women were like, we don't know what we're going to do. They were paralyzed with fear. Because I had this momentum of, all right, my house is gutted, let me help you. With that, I said, I'm going to start a demolition business to targeting women. There's other women out there that are fearful like me. I had no concept that Demo Diva would have turned into a 15-year business, celebrating it today. Hallelujah. And also, it would really turn into a business for the city. And that's really what got me going, was that momentum that those two Brazilian boys said, Simone, you can do this. You're doing it for yourself. Go help other women. And it was from their mouth that inspired me to do this.
From the very outset, back when you and I first spoke, your company has worn its femininity on its sleeve. Your pink equipment and your very hot pink logo. Aside from the fact that obviously you are a woman, what was the thinking behind that?
I really was, I didn't have confidence in myself. I thought, who would really take me seriously other than another woman thinking I'm just literally here to help her. Certainly men would kind of scoff at me, and they did. But, I think that the atmosphere of despair and just absolute, everyone needed each other, and I was willing to help. And so in that devastation, it wasn't just women that needed me. It was an entire city that started to ask for help. And I don't know, my marketing, it has helped me and then it has hindered me. But I think without the name, I would not have had the trajectory. And so, I also brought the emotional element of the feminine, as you say, the feminine side of demolition to the business. And that was the emotional side of, let me listen to what's the story behind this. Behind every demolition is an emotion. I mean, whether it's the excitement of losing that house, whether it's a fire that lost a house, whether it's a food plant, we're doing a huge food plant that is expanding because they've won more contracts. We just did 2 schools that are getting ready to build schools. So we've moved into commercial and industrial. And so behind all of that is an emotion for that community. And I think that with that progress, I've learned how to bring that femininity to something that's generally perfunctory.
We'll come back to the other sides of the business in a second, but as you rightly mentioned, it is exactly 15 years since Demo Diva came into being. Take me through the journey from then till now, because when you and I first met, you were very fresh to the demolition business, and now you're 15 years in. I think you're probably considered the American queen of demolition these days.
Oh, hardly. I'm here with Volvo's been so good to me over the years. They've taken me under their wing and brought me around to the conferences, introduced me to people. So that's really helped me grow within this market of learning who the other big players are. And once I'm a gnat, I'm a nobody, but I enjoy having my place at the table in this industry. since I met you 11 years ago, the war wounds that I bear, I would say I earned my place at the table now. What I've learned over the years in how to grow a business, going from gutting houses to demolishing houses to moving into asbestos and larger demolition skinning, where right now we are stripping a 6-story building. We just abated it with us for asbestos. So it's been a progress. I've had to also want to grow this. When you and I met, I remember the excitement that I felt, the energy that I got from the Europeans was the potential that I could grow. And it was, I could be big and big. And it was, but I'll tell you, over the years, and my message really to any business owner is grow at the pace you feel comfortable with. Live the life you want to live. And that's really what I've learned over the last 15 years, because this business I'm not living for the business. The business operates for me, and it operates for my pleasure and for my income. And so while the visions of grandeur danced in my head, I really wanted to just serve my community. This was what Demo Diva gave me, as a platform to work and to speak into my community, not just locally, even nationally. And I also share with you a little bit internationally. So over the last 15 years, it's that I've grown up, and I've while Demo Diva has grown, I've grown and matured to say it's not so bad. There's an old adage: stay small and keep it all.
Absolutely. There's a rule to live by. Thankfully, I was always destined to stay small anyway, so that comes fairly naturally to me. Now, you've mentioned asbestos. You've obviously diversified into asbestos. You've also bought a wood mill. Were these strategic decisions, or was this another Simone Bruni seizing the opportunity right there and then?
I think that atmosphere in New Orleans after Katrina just brought this deluge of entrepreneurship, and everyone's always looking and scanning the horizons for new businesses. I think once you get into entrepreneurship, you're always looking for that next thrill. The demolition business is really a commodity business, and I was selling my lumber, so we would dismantle these old buildings in New Orleans, which had antique heart pine, 300-year-old wood, and that wood is worth. It makes me sad to think how much I threw away. There really needs to be law not to throw that kind of wood away. So the man that we sold to suddenly died. He had a 20-year-old mill already functioning. And so I went in and assumed the business and renamed it Reclaim Diva. And so that is our sister company, where we manufacture tongue and groove floors. And these are the floors in all of New Orleans uptown homes. And our architecture is very unique. And so the homes back 100 years ago were made with antique heart pine. So we are in the wood mill business. And then, the other part of my issue was that I was not in construction prior. I had no one in my family in construction, and I had no one to introduce me or to network, or I don't fish, I don't hunt, I don't play poker. So how was I supposed to get in front of these guys? Because, people do business with people they like, people they know, people they have fun with, because that's where you build the confidence once you realize someone's personality. And I didn't have that opportunity to get in front of these decision makers. So I had to market myself in a different way, which then led to my dumpster business. And so over the last 10 years, I have accumulated 150 hot pink dumpsters that speckle New Orleans. And unlike any other dumpster company, I decided to weld 12-foot panels on the sides of my dumpsters, which were mobile billboards on both sides of the dumpsters. And so you can't miss me. I was going to stand out in the crowd.
Same as it ever was, as they say.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, your story begins in New Orleans, and New Orleans kind of runs right through your story as well. And I'm an outsider looking in. New Orleans is often described as a melting pot, and I think Demo Diva has kind of followed that ideal. You really are a great mix of male and female, or in your case, female and male, of black and white. Was that, again, part of a grand plan, or does that just reflect the way things are in New Orleans?
I think, I love the diversity within our company. And I have had white operators, black operators. The white operators were never from New Orleans. My black operators are homegrown. And once we settle into that rhythm, it just flowed. We're really a reflection of our community. So we are all diverse within, we have Hispanics, blacks, and whites. That is New Orleans. We really feather in the cultural diversity well. I think a lot more differently than the rest of the country. And so even with the climate that's been in our country this past year, our team, I cannot brag enough on how beautiful the Demo Diva team is. I mean, we're really family. We celebrate together. We eat crawfish together. We've talked about the racism. I mean, my drivers, I would say the majority of my company is black. And my guys have told me repeatedly, and this came out long before George Floyd, that they said, you don't know what it's like to drive and be pulled over with your children in the back seat. And they said, you don't know how many times we've worn the Demo Diva shirt and they've seen the shirt and they let us go. Wow. And I mean, that statement has many, there's a lot of messages in that, and that breaks my heart. So we have talked about things frankly within our company, but I think that there's a level of comfort there with the diversity of the business. I think the guys see, and that I know, I mean, we've talked about, they see the pain that I've gone through. So there's an equalizer that they know that I'm prejudiced against in some ways, but I don't hold that against anyone. I don't wear that as an arm badge, just like they are. And so with that, that's made us stronger. My weakness has made them stronger.
It's interesting. All of that leads back to the point that I wanted to raise, is the fact that Demo Diva was obviously started as a demolition company, but it's way more than that. You're an integral part of your community, sponsoring cheerleading teams and all the things that you do. Again, was that an aim, or is, as you've alluded to, was that just a reflection of New Orleans rallying together in the aftermath of a natural disaster?
No, that is my give back to the community, is an absolute reflection of me and my faith. I could not have done this without prayer, without my parents, without believing that the Lord was with me. And I believe, just as I believe in the law of gravity, I believe in the law of reciprocity. I knew that I needed to give back. It was coming. The first 5 years was a deluge of business. And the next 10 years, we're going to be weathering the not deluge of business. And so I knew that I had to invest in others. And so I did get involved with different community charities, with local organizations. And, that was also my way of saying, but I did not do that with a selfish motive. But in that giving back, I also was blessed, because then it gave me an entrance to meet other community board members and people that I would sit at a table with that I never would have a chance to. So it allowed me to meet other influencers, but I really came from it with a heart that I want to give back. I want to, I don't have children. So my first thing was when I had sponsored those 300 girls to play flag football, that was my first realization. Oh, someone had approached me to sponsor it. And I said, what does demolition have to do with flag football for high school girls? And they pointed out and said, Simone, you don't understand. You're a woman in a non-traditional role, and flag football is, a non-traditional sport for girls. We're just asking you to just have a voice. And it took someone else to say that to me for me to finally say, oh, okay, I have something to say. And someone wants to listen.
So it's been 15 years, as we've already said. You're very much on your local, your national, and as a result of this, international map. Where does the company go for the next 15 years? What lies ahead for Demo Diva?
I'm here at the National Demolition Summit this week, and I hear about a company buying 25 pieces of equipment, or someone just got a high reach. I have to say, there's a twinge in me of like, oh, I wish that could be me today. And Mark, I've just come to the place of absolute contentment. I think that I'd like to build a business that I could leave to my family. I'd like to leave a legacy for my employees, that they had built a good life. And that's really what that's all this life is really for us to do, is to leave a mark for the next generation and something healthy. To say I have aspirations to grow. When I first met you, I was so full of excitement, and I remember I was going to have Demo Diva clothing and Demo Diva cartoons and Demo Diva game boards, and there was reality show talks, and thank God I didn't go that route. But I think now it's really just to maintain a healthy business, keep employees happy, and leave a good legacy.